Hello, dear PowerPlay fans, dear fans of Danny King. It's me, Yannick Pelletier, replacing your favorite Daniel King, who is in Japan these days. Don't worry, I'm not gonna be there for too long. It's just for a few days. And actually, I feel also pretty lucky because the games we are being treated with are absolutely great at the World Cup final in Khanty-Mansiysk. Yesterday we had a very nice win by Liren with white against Teimour Radjabov, his opponent from Azerbaijan. And today Radjabov with white, I was actually criticizing a little bit Radjabov yesterday for two reasons. The first was that I thought his preparation wasn't really up to the task in that game. And for the second reason where I allowed myself to criticize him was when I said that he's actually known to be a very solid player, making many draws. Well, he proved me wrong in both cases today. First of all, he really prepared his game really well today. He managed to find an improvement upon a game played by Liren earlier, as we will see. And he showed great technique and won that game to equalize the score in that match. So let's take a look. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6. Well, Liren has been clearly an E5 player with black for many years, but he's been changing between the Petrov, which is a Chinese specialty. It's become a Chinese specialty in the past few years, and his other choice is to go for a normal Ruy Lopez and a Marshall, and this is exactly what we're gonna have today: a Marshall gambit, Knight F6, and all the first typical moves of the Marshall. Here, usually when you have to play for a win and you accept to go into this, you choose an anti-Marshall, H3 or A4, and you try to have a less concrete character in the fight. But Radjabov had this very nice preparation in mind, and he went for it: C3, D5, takes, and here both players followed what has become clearly the main line against the Marshall in the past few years. That's this D3 move, bishop D6, rook back to E1, and here again a sequence of moves which I'm not going to delve into deeply because it's all fashionable and well-known theory. If you're not versed with the Marshall, of course, those moves for either side may seem a little strange sometimes, even though black, is creating threats, is going for it. And here white, and that's actually the main idea of this D3, he actually accepts to give back the pawn. He has won a bit earlier in the opening by going bishop E3, and that's also, you see, he hasn't played D4 in order. After bishop takes D3, knight D2, queen F5, a sensible retreat in order to try and exchange queens, and here he goes bishop D4, so he gets this very nice square for the bishop centralized. And even though it's very tiny, I mean, it's all about small nuances, but still black hasn't completely equalized yet. I remember I have been working for Etienne Bacrot around 10 years ago, and he used to play the Marshall, and I remember looking at those lines a little, and I mean, it was always so close to equality for black, but not quite, and you always needed to push the analysis a bit further in order to prove equality. And it wasn't even easy with good computers, because they always tend to show between 00 or 010, 020, and you can't rely on that assessment, because you have to switch on your brain, which is normal, which is still a good thing actually. But you shouldn't trust the computer too much, because it may show 020 and it might actually be quite serious of a problem. It might show 010 and it's a clear draw. So you need to really be aware all the time. And yeah, plus you need to remember your analysis, your lines, and there are so many in the marshal that it's not that easy. Well, let's go on. Here there are several moves possible, but Liren has been playing rook fd8 earlier, and he did it again. a4, h6, h4, rook ac8, and so far we've been following the game Wesley saw against Liren from the candidates tournament in Berlin 2018. There the American took on b5 and then took on d5 and on f5, and he managed to win a pawn with a5, rook a5, excuse me. So this pawn on b5 is hanging. You don't really want to play passively, so Liren played b4, takes on here, bishop e6, rook goes away, takes on c3. He went rook b8. White is a pawn up, but there are two bishops, and the pawn on b2 isn't going far really. There are really good chances to manage the exchange of the dark squared bishops by bishop b4, something like this, and then b2 will be vulnerable, and indeed Liren managed to draw quite comfortably. Radjabov had prepared an improvement. He took on f5 and played knight e4. And here, well, I will not try to criticize Liren, but he took almost 30 minutes for his next move. And, well, I'm a bit surprised, because when you prepare this line so far, and you certainly take a look at your game against Wesley So, well, the option queen takes f5 and knight e4 is one of the main suggestions of the computer, so it's something you probably take a look at. So an option, I mean, as a possibility, is that he didn't remember his analysis, his preparation, and this happens even to the best. So I don't know. Those are the two possibilities. In any case, bishop f8 is a normal answer here. What he probably thought about all this time before going bishop f8 was how to react to knight c5, which is what Radjabov played. And here Liren came up with, I think, a very nice solution, an original move. Yeah, he has alternatives. He can actually try to play knight b6 as well, hitting a4, hitting in some way, because if you take on a6, well, knight takes a4, takes, rook takes a4, say c5, bishop e3, and bishop d3. Again, two bishops here for black to slightly compensate for the pawn deficit. The knight on a6, little outside, a little offside, I'd even say. I'm not quite sure, but clearly white is the one trying for a win. I mean, there is no question about it. He might go rook a5, hitting c5. I mean, there are chances. Clearly there are chances for white. And Liren decided to play knight b4, which is a remarkable move. He activates his knight. It's getting tactically very complicated, even though we have equal material, a symmetrical pawn structure. I mean, there are some hair-raising complications here. Well, we're not going to enter into all this, but look, I mean, the bishop d4 can be en prise. Of course, this can be taken. The bishop c5 could also, the knight on c5 could also be sometimes hanging. Plus, the a file can be open anytime. a6 is also weak. So, it is not so easy. And Radjabov kept playing quite quickly. He went rook e5, a good move. Asking just a question to this bishop on f5. Where do you go, or what do you do? And actually, I think that here Liren made a mistake by going g6, and we're going to see why concretely this is a mistake, which was very nicely exploited by his opponent. The best move was bishop g6, and he might not have liked it because of h5, a very sensible move. I'd like to note that you can play h5 now, or you can do it later. You can start with a takes b5. If black takes back, then h5 is a better version of what we're gonna see later. But here black has bishop takes c5. Rook takes c5, the better way to take. A takes b5 and h5 now. And here we have bishop c2. And here it's pretty interesting because the bishop b3 cannot be kept, has to be exchanged somehow. But there is no real solution for this. And well, we can try bishop takes f7, king takes, pawn takes b4, rook takes d4, rook takes, excuse me, first a check on a7 can be given, king f6 and takes on c2, rook takes b4, and well, white is slightly more active, but it's not going to be enough. So here a draw would be quite clear. So white should try h5 at once, and here again bishop c2. And here is a little excerpt of this complications, tactical complications I was mentioning earlier. We have pawn takes b4 and bishop takes c5. And look, all the bishops are hanging everywhere. You don't really know what's going on. But the thing is, if you take a bishop, I take the other one, and we are dealing with an opposite colored bishop endgame, more or less. Rook's on the board still, but it's gonna be rather drawish. So white has to try bishop takes f7 check again, takes bishop takes c5, but there is pawn takes a4 now. With material equality, white is slightly more active, but it's hardly enough in my opinion. Let's say rook a e1, rook to d1, exchanging a pair of rooks, rook e7 check, king f6, takes, and the bishop hits h5, so that if I now go for g7, let's say rook d7, takes on h5, bishop d4 check, king e6, and I take on g7. Well, my first impression is white is still pushing a bit here, but the computer says equal, and well, I tend to trust the beast in that case. I mean, black will activate his rook as well. Rook d8, he can enter, bishop f3, be careful of bishop f3 as well. So, yeah, probably it is right. A draw here is the likely result. And that would certainly not be easy to see for Ding Liren, and especially to assess the position at the end of this long variation, if you even manage to calculate it. Assessing the ensuing position is far from easy. Well, g6, I think he might have missed white's trick here. Well, he took c takes b5, and here Radjabov uncorked this very nice knight e6. It's really beautiful, because whatever black does, white is going to emerge with a little material advantage. Now that knight e6 has been played, well, the rook is hit on d8. Watch out where you go, because the knight on b4 is still hanging there. Might just also want to take two bishops. So black has no real option. He has to take, and we have rook takes e6. And now I'm threatening to take on g6 because of the pin here. Well, I'm threatening to take other things. I mean, I can also go rook b6 next, and a6 will always be in the air. I have rook b7 then, so you have no real choice. You need to take. King h7 takes here. And here, well, again, a very interesting moment for the point of view of black defense. He has to choose between rook takes c8 and knight c2. In the case of knight c2, we have to play rook c1, takes on d4, c takes d4. We are dealing now with an endgame with opposite colored bishops, with rooks on the board, and I mean, without rooks, this position would be a dead draw. With rooks on the board, activity, king safety are factors which are extremely important, and I can really understand that Liren decided not to go for this, even though the computer says that after a5 here, black isn't too seriously in danger. Well, it might be right, and I believe that the best computer would be able to hold this to a draw, but for the human eye, for the human brain, it's a completely different story. And I'm sure Radjabov, with his high level of technique, would have given Liren a hard time here. So, well, the Chinese decided to take this, pawn takes b4, and go for the other type of endgame, an endgame with rooks and bishop, but bishops of the same color, dark squared bishops. And maybe he wasn't completely wrong. Here he went rook c4, bishop f6, and what black has to try and achieve here is the exchange of bishops. If he does this, generally speaking, he should be able to hold a draw in a rook endgame. If you consider the pure bishop endgame, let's say we manage to exchange rooks, then I believe that white's winning chances are extremely high. I'd even say that white's position should be winning. With both pieces for each camp, rook and bishop, then my impression is that white should be very close to winning, but it's not so easy. Clearly, I mean, his chances are really good, but it's a lot of work, and I mean, generally speaking, the task of the defender here is so much more complicated than the one who plays for a win. So let's see how it happens, and actually we can explain the next two moves very easily. Bishop g7, black would like to exchange bishops. Bishop e7, white doesn't comply. Rook c6 now, going back to defend a6, and here a nice little technical move by Radjabov, who plays rook a2, not just to protect b2, but he does this by keeping pressure on a6, and he's gonna go at some point b3 in order to activate that rook towards the center. Well, here again, from defensive point of view, an important moment, because he played a move which allowed white to get control, a better control of his pieces, and he could have prevented that by going bishop d4, preventing bishop c5. Yet after b3, the white rook enters the fray very easily. There is going to be rook d2 soon, and if the bishop has to go back, then it's either you have bishop c5 or the rook enters and the black king is in danger. Well, here he can still go rook c3, hitting g3. Let's say king g2, we can take on b3, takes on a6, and God knows what this endgame is about. Is it a draw? Is it a win? I really have no idea. Clearly, I believe that practically white's winning chances are higher than black's chances to make a draw. But, that's only my gut's opinion. Liren went king g8, bishop c5. Now, this bishop has this nice grip, this nice square here. And here I've already seen on Facebook some people criticizing Liren in this moment for not playing bishop f8. That bishop f8 is an automatic move. He should have tried to exchange bishops. Well, I mean, Liren has proven 2-3 moves before that he understands that exchanging bishops should be a good thing. But he calculated probably a bit further. And the thing is, bishop f8 doesn't really have a threat. He doesn't want to take twice on c5, because let's say king g2, if he takes now, takes and takes, rook takes a6. Now you have to be, of course, you have to protect here, so let's say king g7 and rook b6. And I think this is losing for black. Now let's say a move like h5, b4. You cannot afford giving up b5, so rook e5 for instance, and just f3, king f7, king f2, king g7, f4, and the white king is coming. Rook d5, king e3, and I'm going to play king e4. Well, let's say you keep waiting. I play king e4, gotta go here, and now your rook is completely stuck there, and I can simply go rook c6 and rook c5, or perhaps even rook d6 and rook d5, and it's over. So that's not so easy. So after king g2 he shouldn't take, he has to wait. But what was bishop f8 for if you cannot take? King f3. Well, I have taken a look at several lines. I mean, just to illustrate that here again, if you go like this, it looks like easy now. I've recovered the pawn, but there is king g5 and g6 drops. Rook f3, check, takes here, takes there, and this is a win for white. And if you keep waiting, which is not something you want to do in the endgame, you should strive for activity, but sometimes waiting tactics are better, like here. But I think king e4, you just enter into the position, takes. Well, here first of all you could take with the pawn, that would be an option, but just king d5 is really good too. And here I take. If you go active, I just take your b5 pawn, and my own b4 pawn is going to decide the game. And here rook e6, just rook a3. Again, hard to tell here. Is white winning? Is it a draw? My assessment is just the same. I mean, you have to look at it from a practical point of view in order to understand the decision taken by Liren for not going into this. Clearly, white's chances to win are better than black's chances to draw, in practice especially. And well, from another, from the other side, if you consider what he got in the game after king f7, you can say that, well, this rook ending would have been better than what he played, because the game ended, within 10 moves. In 10 moves, black's resigning. So clearly he did something wrong. He was short of time, so defending this is not easy. I mean, from afar you could say, yeah, activating the king is logical, but he's not going anywhere, as we're going to see. King f3, I want to go to e4, so he prevents this with a king f5, rook d2, bishop e5, rook d5, threatening, bishop d4, liquidating into a pawn ending, which would be winning. So king e6, king e4. Well, the bishop should probably find another square here, but it went to f6, and this allowed f4. And now I'm forcing my way through f5, undermining this pawn structure, and it means h5 is kind of doomed already. Bishop c3, f5, king f7, and here again a very nice technical maneuver, not a difficult one, but something you need to to see. You need to improve your king, you need to make sure that you're going to progress, and for this, to achieve this, you give a check and play bishop d6 to cut off the action of the rook on the 6th rank. So you want to exchange those pawns g6 for f5, but you want to do this under your own terms, under the best possible circumstances. You don't want to take yourself on g6. That would actually be a mistake. The rook suddenly activates here, hitting g3, cutting off the white king. So, well, I don't know, maybe white is still winning, but why not go bishop d6, just cutting off the rook. Now he has to takes back, and the king can just enter to g6 or go to g5 to take that pawn here. Well, that's how the game ended. Bishop g7, king g5, and Liren resigned. h5 is lost, and you can't do anything against those two pawns on the g and h files. Very nice performance by Radjabov. Nice preparation, nice follow-up, brilliant technique. I mean, a perfect win. And, well, Liren didn't show his best. He wasn't in his best day perhaps, but even those great guys, they show nerves at some point, and he was so close to the win in the final that perhaps he got a little nervous and didn't defend perfectly. But you have to keep in mind, in chess it's always more difficult, much more difficult to defend than to attack, or let's say put pressure. It's not just about finding best moves, it's also about, the worth of each move is higher. You make a mistake, you may be lost immediately, and so you get nervous, you are under psychological pressure. So all this makes it much more difficult to defend in chess. So well, that's going to be my conclusion for today. I'm definitely hoping for a great final game between Liren tomorrow, who's going to be white against Radjabov. Fourth and last game of this match. In case they make a draw, it's going to be 2-2. So we're going to have the chance to have tie breaks on the day after that. So we'll see. Just to mention that in the other match for the third place, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Yu Yangyi have made 3 draws so far. And well, maybe in this game there is going to be in this match there is going to be something very interesting to report on tomorrow. But we're going to see that. I thank you very much for your attention. I see you soon. Thanks and bye.